So you're in Iowa for the next several days, and I'm figuring you're up here to assess the success of the corn and soybean crops.
Indeed, and the nice thing is I work in Washington, D.C., and it's D.C. produces the most fertilizer of any city on earth.
Yeah, but most of it can't be recycled.
And it's toxic to anything it comes in contact with.
You should put one of those crime scenes, those yellow strips of tape across that area and say, enter at your own risk. If we have to get serious, I suppose we do sometime here today. You have just issued a couple of statements and positions I'd like you to comment on this morning. One is on a court decision that it deals with the use of water. I know you issued. Tell me about that.
Well, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals has stopped the EPA's Waters of the United States rule, and it's a terrific decision. I'm very glad of that. The Waters of the United States rule is an abuse of power from the Obama administration. It's part of a long litany of abuses of power where these regulators, they don't care what the law says, they want more and more power, and they're trying to arbitrarily define drainage ditches and any puddle of water that may be on your farm or ranch or in the backyard of your house. They're trying to define that as navigable water, and it's simply not what the law says. So I'm very glad the Federal Court of Appeals stepped in and at a minimum delayed, and I hope will ultimately stop implementation of that rule.
Do you think the President or the EPA will honor that court ruling in the least?
They have said that they will, and I don't think you will see the EPA defying the injunction. We saw a couple of months ago a similar injunction concerning immigration, where, as you know, President Obama tried to illegally grant amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants, and my home state, the state of Texas, led 25 other states suing the federal government, and again, a federal district court did exactly what the Court of Appeals did to the EPA, which is they issued an injunction preventing the president from carrying out his amnesty, and he has, at least to date, not defied those injunctions. So I think it's likely the EPA, they'll continue to fight it out in court, but at least for now, the Waters of the United States rule is delayed.
It's a rule, not a law, right? I mean, it's an EPA, they just invented it because they can under executive action, right?
Well, it is promulgated as a regulation, and the Congress has passed legislation that gives the EPA regulatory authority. Now, you and I have talked about this before.
Right.
That has been extraordinarily abused in modern times under Obama, but really in the last 40, 50 years. And it's one of the really key things that I'm running to change, which is under the Constitution. What Obama has done wrong with executive power is he has intruded into Article 1, the lawmaking authority of Congress, that under the Constitution, all lawmaking authority is vested in Congress. The president doesn't have the authority to make the laws, to change the laws, or ignore the laws.
Right.
But that being said, the president has robust authority under Article 2. All executive power is vested in the presidency.
Yes.
And this army of unelected bureaucrats that puts out rule after rule after rule really represents Congress's efforts over the decades to intrude into the Article 2 authority of the presidency. And if I'm elected president, Jan, we are going to see for the first time in history a president using the full Article 2 executive authority of the presidency to go after the regulatory state, to fire regulators, to revoke regulations, and to expand human liberty.
I have oodles of questions for you. I need to take a short time out if that's okay.
Sure.
Senator Ted Cruz is on our Newsmaker line. He is in Iowa. He has just co-sponsored a very important piece of legislation dealing with sanctuary cities. When we come back, I'll have him discuss that too. And also, last week, Senator Cruz, you in charge of speaking in one of the committees, had a chance to ask some really great questions to the head of the Sierra Club. It was it was one of the most amazing performances I have ever seen, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Okay, Senator Ted Cruz on our Newsmaker line. Back in a moment. He is visiting Iowa. He has 5 events scheduled today. Stops in Fort Dodge, Rockwell City, Sac City, a couple stops in Sioux City. He's going to be in Sioux City tonight for a fundraiser for Senator Grassley at 5 and a rally with the Senator and Congressman Steve King at 7. So you have a busy day in store for you, sir.
Well, I do, and I'm here in Iowa the next 3 days traveling the state, and have been so encouraged by the incredible support we're seeing here on the ground. Our grassroots team, we've rolled out county chairmen in all 99 counties here in Iowa. And in fact, we're the only candidate in the race who's rolled out county chairman in every county in each of the first 4 states nationwide. And Jan, what we're really seeing is conservatives uniting behind our campaign. In past elections, there's been one consensus moderate candidate. They have all the money. And conservatives never have any money, and we fight like cats and dogs. This election, that's flipped. The moderates are battling each other like crazy. It's not clear at all who's going to be the moderate candidate, and conservatives more and more. The 2 candidates who dropped out, Scott Walker, Rick Perry, both very good men, strong governors, were competing primarily as conservatives, and what we're seeing is more and more conservatives uniting behind our campaign, and then our fundraising has been extraordinary. We've raised over $26 million in this campaign, and that in turn is helping provide the resources to communicate a positive, optimistic, conservative message.
You are in the right place at the right time to talk about sanctuary cities. You've introduced, along with David Vitter, the Stop Sanctuary Policies and Protect Americans Act. Talk to us about that.
Well, the Senate is going to vote on that next week, and I've joined with David Vitter of Louisiana and actually Iowa's own Chuck Grassley. We're the co-authors of this legislation, and it does 2 things. Number one, it strips federal fundings of any sanctuary city. So if you have a city typically led by a Democratic mayor and a Democratic city council that declares that they're going to fight federal immigration laws, that they're going to oppose enforcing the immigration laws, then the federal government is not going to be sending them the money. And I think that if we pass that into law, it will have a powerful effect ending the lawlessness of these local elected Democrats. And then the second component of this, Jan, is case law, which is the legislation I introduced in the Senate that provides for any illegal alien who's been deported, who comes back, who has an aggravated felony, that individual faces a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years in prison. And we're going to vote on both of those next week in the Senate.
The technical question, does a city or jurisdiction have to declare themselves a sanctuary city to be under the provisions of this act?
Well, they don't, and actually the act includes transparency and accountability. One of the things that makes a sanctuary city is when the federal government immigration officials issue what's called a detainer, which is, let's say a local city picks up someone for committing a crime, and the feds discover that person is here illegally. They can issue a detainer, which is asking the local government, will you hold this person so we can pick him up and deport him? There are a whole bunch of cities that ignore federal detainers, that say, nope, sorry, we are not going to cooperate with you. We're going to let this guy go. And, one of those cities is San Francisco. We were all horrified at the murder of Kate Steinle just a couple of months ago. That's an example where San Francisco, if the federal government issues a detainer and asks them, will you hold temporarily this illegal alien who's a criminal so that we can process him and deport him? San Francisco says, no, we welcome illegal aliens, including, sadly, violent criminal illegal aliens, to our city. And so the numbers in terms of cities that refuse to honor detainers will all be publicly reported. That's part of this legislation, so that anyone can go and look at the website and see what their city is doing and just how many criminal illegal aliens their city has released.
The city of Des Moines has never declared itself a sanctuary city. However, various members of law enforcement here have publicly stated that they will not do the, I think, is it 287 or 387G agreements? I can't remember the number at the moment. And they've expressed the outspoken desire not to enforce immigration laws and not to cooperate. So,
it is a problem, Jan, that we're seeing across the country. And it is, in the year, and not only is it local cities, which is an enormous problem, but it's true at the federal government level too. I mean, even the Obama administration in 2013 released over 103,000 violent, just criminal illegal aliens, including 196 murderers, including nearly 400 illegal aliens convicted of sexual assault. And that's one of the things I've pledged. If I am elected president, that will end. The federal government will stop releasing violent criminal illegal aliens. It's indefensible. It's lawless. We're seeing cities doing it, and sadly we're seeing the Obama administration doing it as well.
Related to this is a hot issue here in Iowa. I can tell you from personal experience that Iowans are not happy with the Obama administration's plan to import refugees from Syria, Muslim Syrians, by the tune of 250,000 over the next couple of years. But we're feeling helpless.
Yes.
On how to bring this to a halt, and the political class here in Iowa are just now whining about it, and their biggest contribution is just to negotiate how many, not whether or not they should be coming at all. What's your thinking on this?
Jen, you are exactly correct. President Obama's proposal to bring in tens of thousands of Muslim Syria refugees makes no sense. I think it's crazy. And I have been outspoken against this, leading the efforts to stop this. This is one of the things that will stop immediately if I'm elected president. You look at this refugee crisis. You look at the refugees right now that are streaming into Europe. Of that refugee wave, one estimate is that 77% of those refugees are young men. The director of national intelligence has observed that those refugees coming into Europe, it is very likely they include a significant number of ISIS terrorists. It is lunacy for President Obama to be bringing people into this country who are coming here to commit jihad, to murder innocent Americans. It doesn't make any sense, and sadly it's a result of the ideological extremism of this president and his unwillingness to protect our national security.
What tools do you have at your disposal until he is replaced to mitigate this at any level, or are there any tools that you have at your disposal?
Under existing immigration law, the president has considerable leeway governing refugees, unfortunately. And so I think the most potent tool is shining a light and forcing Democrats to defend it, or forcing them to defend why exactly would you want to bring in Syrian Muslims when we don't know, we can't sort and separate the ISIS terrorists who are among them. I think that's a policy that no Democrat wants to defend. And the real solution here is electing a new president, because unfortunately there are consequences when you elect a commander-in-chief who is a radical and a zealot and is undermining our country.
Well, we found out last week, I think it was Senator Sessions had a committee hearing on this, and he got the admission out of the spokesperson from Homeland Security that they literally, and the Department of who running the refugee program, they got the admission that they have no real genuine way of doing background checks on any of these people.
Jan, that's exactly right. And Senator Sessions and I have been working together very closely to stop this. One of the things he and I were discussing recently is that the State Department in the past several weeks came to Capitol Hill and met with a number of senators, and they asked the State Department, of the current Syrian refugees that the administration has admitted, how many of them are Christians? The answer was 3%. Now, Christians right now are facing genocide. I mean, ISIS is crucifying Christians, that they are beheading children, and we need to show real leadership, responding and helping provide safe haven for the persecuted Christians. Now, with regard to the Muslim refugees, it's a humanitarian crisis, but those refugees need to be resettled in the Middle East, in majority Muslim countries, not brought here where they put at jeopardy the safety and security of Americans.
I don't want to have the time run out on us before I'm not going to play the sound from this. I'll have a whole 9 minutes of you cross-examining the head of the Sierra Club. You could have sold popcorn, and it was just an amazing sight, because you were questioning the head of the Sierra Club over the assumptions of climate change, and he kept going back. Well, 97% of the scientists, we're going to go with their conclusion. Talk to me about that confrontation.
Well, sure. It was a hearing that I chaired in the Judiciary Committee, looking at over-regulations and the burdens it puts on the minority community, the burdens it puts on people who are struggling. And the president of the Sierra Club testified, and his testimony was almost entirely about global warming and the need to put massive new burdens on the economy and raise everyone's electricity bill and make it harder for people to make ends meet, because he says this catastrophe of global warming is coming. And he also stated, as the global warming alarmists frequently do, that the science is not up for debate, that it cannot be debated, it cannot be questioned. And that doesn't resemble anything called science that I've ever encountered. The essence of science is questioning and debate and evidence and facts. So I asked him a little bit about the facts, and it was really stunning that the head of this massive advocacy group didn't know the most basic facts about global warming. And in particular, I asked him, what do you do about the fact that the satellite data demonstrate that there has been no significant warming whatsoever in the last 18 years? That the computer models that the Sierra Club and the extreme left is relying upon to impose massive costs on farmers, on ranchers, on anyone who pays an electric bill, the computer models claim that the Earth should be warming dramatically, but when the actual satellites take the temperature, it ain't happening. And he didn't seem to know that. He had no idea how to respond.
And his aide had to continue to whisper in his ear how to answer this thing. And he kept retreating. It became humorous and appalling after a while. Over the weekend, the President, Obama, was on the 60 Minutes. Here, this is our last thing. This lasts about 20 seconds. I want your commentary on his conclusion.
If you think that running your economy into the ground and having to send troops in order to prop up your only ally is leadership, then we've got a different definition of leadership. My definition of leadership would be leading on climate change and international accord that potentially we'll get in Paris.
An agreement we don't even have yet. His idea of leadership, the Middle East has fallen apart in his watch. He's more interested in climate change, for Pete's sake.
It really is ludicrous, and I got to say, his comments on that interview, it struck me that Bill Clinton must have shaken his head and said, wow, that guy is an unusually good liar. I mean, that was reminiscent of, Bill Clinton's "it depends what the word is." Yeah, yet, Obama claims that he's showing strong leadership, and it's Putin that's on the retreat, and Obama is apparently the only human being on the face of the planet that sees it that way.
He must see the terms climate change as a political salve. It works on everybody.
It really is. They view you and me in an F-150 pickup truck as a greater threat to the safety and security of America than the Ayatollah Khamenei with $100 billion with nuclear weapons chanting death to America. It is lunacy. It is being unwilling to confront the very real threat. President Obama has abandoned our friends and allies. This is the most antagonistic administration in history to the nation of Israel. And he has appeased and coddled our enemies. Every bad actor on the face of the earth is stronger because of Obama's weakness. And I'll tell you, Jan, if I'm elected president, that will end. It's worth remembering this same nation, Iran, in 1981 released our hostages the day Ronald Reagan was sworn in. That's what a strong commander-in-chief can do. And if I'm elected president, that's what we're going to have, and we're going to see real changes with enemies of America no longer walking all over us and acting to endanger the safety and security of our people.
Senator Ted Cruz, thank you for joining us this morning. Have a good time here in Iowa. You'll leave right before the weather falls apart on Thursday.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and it is beautiful and glorious right now, and I so appreciate the hospitality. You know, all the Iowans across the state who are coming to our rallies, coming to our town halls, who are coming to our website, tedcruz.org, and they're signing up, they're volunteering, they're contributing. And if you want to come out and see us over the next 3 days, go to that website. It's tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org. We'll have the schedule. You'll see where our town halls are. We'd love to see you, answer your questions, visit, and I hope you can come out and we have a chance to visit soon.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.